Bancroft Andover.
Scott?
Scott Leslie, Superintendent.
Scott B?
Scott Butson, Director of Technology.
Jessica?
Jessica Dapsus, Hebron.
Okay, Ben Colonna from Hebron. If it's okay, we'll skip the Pledge of Allegiance and move on to number 3, public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight? Any public comment? I don't see anybody else on. Going once, going twice, going. Number 4, approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which was Tuesday, May 19th. There wasn't much on there. Review and discussion of policies pertaining to hiring. I don't know if you have anything to add, Stephanie.
No, I wasn't there, so I'm going to abstain on the vote to pass.
Jess, do you feel confident enough voting, or do you want to table this till the next meeting?
No, I feel good voting. I think I had a chance to look at it before.
Okay.
Fine.
So if you'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the May 19th,
Minutes.
2020 minutes.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And Stephanie, you're abstaining?
I don't think I was there.
Motion passes. Stephanie, are you able to take notes, or should I be doing?
I can take notes for you.
I'm doing that. That I have in front of me. I have a pad, so I can do that piece at least.
Okay. All right. So the next item 5 is review and develop a policy for visitors to the schools. Scott?
Sure. So this is really a kind of a very specific need for a policy, and it's not really necessarily the policy for visits to schools. It's what is within the policy. So right now, just gonna wait for my phone to stop doing its thing. Hold on one second. So our policy for having visitors enter the building is pretty old school. We have we have the camera outside, we have the buttons, so that anyone who is coming into the building has to identify themselves. We have a visual cue on them, and then we're able to allow them into the building once the receptionist is confident that they're okay to be entering the building. Obviously, the challenge with that is that you never really know who it is that may be identifying themselves outside the building. So and I'm going to let Scott chime in a few minutes because he certainly knows a lot more about this than I do. But one of the kind of tools that we've purchased is called the Raptor System. It has nothing to do with the RHAM Raptors. It's just a coincidence that that's its name, though I'm glad we bought this particular system because I'm sure it's awesome. And this is one of those systems that I'm sure, and I think Stephanie, I think Hebron is using this system, if not something similar, where a visitor is required to produce an identification, whether it be a license, and that identification is then fed into this machine, and it produces a tag where the visitor has to wear it. And does everyone have the policy, the sample policy that we included?
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice that on the first page, most of it is pretty bland. It's pro forma stuff. If you look at the second page under visitor regulations, number 2, this is really why we need a board policy to address this issue, because there it states the visitor must provide photo identification. If photo identification is not available, additional identification will be required. A background check on the sex offender registry will be completed. If there is a result received, a school administrator will be contacted. Access to the building may be denied by the administrator. So we're moving into a certainly a more intrusive area of collecting personal information on people and then using that to determine whether they'll be permitted to enter the building or not. Scott, do you want to pick it up from there and talk a little more about the functionality of the system and how it actually works?
Yeah, and so the policy is great. So because you can put any system in there, just the guidelines around, what the process is. The Raptor system, many different school districts in Connecticut use it. My own in East Hampton have used it for years, and it really is a great system that you can, scan someone's license or photo ID, many different types of ID, and be able to determine if they're a sex offender or not. That's one of the big functions, but one of the even bigger functions right now that they've been promoting is that with COVID, it could be used for some contact tracing. So if someone did become infected that was a visitor to the building, you could see where they went essentially. And the other big piece is really to track people that are in the building and where they are and what they're doing there. And not everyone substantially wears the badge all the time, but this system would promote that even further to make people wear the visitor badge, has their photo ID so you know who it is on the sticker, not just say visitor. So there's a couple folds there that are much better than the process that we have now. And we've already purchased the system and it's ready to go. Once we get board policy in place, then we'll make some processes in the offices and we'll put it into place.
The sample policy that we provided here from Windsor, if you look at it, particularly the first page, is pretty general in nature. So it still allows each of the offices to develop a visitor entry policy that may change dependent upon the resources that we have in place. So right now, we know that we're developing a policy that has the camera with the double locked vestibules. We know that we have an SRO on site at all times. The policy, at least the board policy here, is general enough so that if we had additional resources, if we had another receptionist, say, out in the atrium, we could build that in. We wouldn't have to change the policy to add additional security. It's really that one key piece of the board policy allowing us at the building level to collect personal information to identify people who we may not want in the building. So I think that's really the most important piece of the policy. And my understanding would be that if this policy committee authorizes us to move forward, we would then share it with Shipman and Goodwin, and they would then develop a RHAM centric policy. It would likely, well, it could go to our next subcommittee meeting and then go to the board for first reading and second reading. Or it could just go to the board. It probably could go to the board for first reading.
At the next meeting.
Yeah, the next meeting.
Yeah.
That way we could conceivably have it in place by the end of October. Right now, it's not a big, it's not urgent in that we're not letting people in the building. So it's just not, we're using it, but we will. I mean, we will. And let's all hope that we're going to be using it sooner than later. So we don't want to wait.
I always thought that, after you got rung in and then you go into the office, and there was never really any, point to going in the office. I mean, obviously, Daryl, I'm a frequent, visitor, so it wasn't really a big deal. Yeah. But there's no sign in, there's no sign out. Right. There were times I got stuck talking to Paul or to Ray, and half hour later, I'm like, is anybody looking for me? So, yeah. And the staff and the teachers and everyone has to have badges. I would assume that the janitorial staff has badges. The students have IDs, and I think during school hours, while school is in session, I don't think it's a big ask in terms of the safety with all the stuff that we've done. To have that to go that level, just to be sure. Now, Mike, I had two questions. Obviously, they would must return the visitor's badge, so they got to check out when they leave. The second question was, what if somebody gets buzzed in and they don't show up at the office? What happens then? Are there alarms that go off, or is somebody getting called to find this person? Does that somehow get logged in? If there's a visitor that gets videoed, does that somehow get logged into the system so that somebody doesn't forget, oh yeah, there was a visitor that came in and never checked in at the office?
I can speak for. So I think it's the responsibility of the receptionist or whoever lets the person in the building that they know that somebody should be showing up in the building.
Okay.
And then they can use the radios to call. And then if the staff's being trained if someone doesn't have a visitor badge on, to ask them, did they report to the office? So that's a couple.
All right. That's all I had. Jess, do you have anything?
No, I agree with what you're saying. So this is just to verify. So this is anyone coming into the building and then not going to the main office. That's going to be throughout the building somewhere, not just dropping something off. It'll be anyone you get into that first spot first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And I'm guessing once legal stuff occurs, I'm sure there's got to be some sort of notifications posted for what information is being gathered for people coming in, so they understand what's happening.
Right. So right now, if a parent comes in for a meeting or if a vendor comes in, so Mike, the vendors will get a vendor tag, and it just simply says vendor. It's, I think, yellow. If a parent comes in, they're going to get a visitor tag, and it just says visitor. But there's no, unless if the receptionist gets distracted, there's no guarantee that person has come back. And we do have a sign in and a sign out, but again, it's old school. It's a handwritten thing. This will allow us to definitively track that, and that will, if you don't sign out, we know that you're still in the building. So it gives us a lot more information about who's in the building, where they may be. And
just real quick, does the Raptor system, does the badge have a tracking device on it so that you could know where they are in the building?
No, I don't think it's not that sophisticated.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
It is upgraded badge from what we're using now because it has their photo and what purpose visitor or vendor or what their purpose is, but no.
And does it have the sign in? Does it have the permission? Is that part of the system when they sign in? Will that, something like Jessica was talking about, where they have to sign a waiver? Does that happen right in the system where they check in, or do we not need to have that?
I don't think you need a waiver per se, because you do have the board policy that's stating that's what we're doing. And if you're a visitor to the school, that's the requirements that you face by coming as a visitor to the school. It does have the location on the badge too. So if someone sees somebody in, all the way in the middle school when they're supposed to be in the high school, 213 or whatever.
The first time someone comes into the school and they have to sign in on the Raptor system. So they have to give their license and they're scanned and all that. But then after that, when they come in, do they just scan their license quickly? It's not as big of a deal. Yeah. It's a really quick sign in. So if you have someone who regularly visits after the first visit, it's quite an easy thing.
I know in East Hampton, they show your license again. They look you up in the system. Yep, you're good. And then they print your badge out. You stick it on. Yeah.
Right. I know that I go into other high schools a lot, and this is obviously very commonly used. And there's nothing that I sign. There's no waiver or anything. You're just putting your license in and getting the tag. So if I'm someone who doesn't belong there, I don't get that opportunity to decline my ID. So.
And I do believe our system caught someone who was on the registry at one point a year or two ago. I remember hearing about it. So,
and they do have some false positives. My wife uses it in Colchester, and people with similar names, similar look sometimes, and and they're like, and sometimes people walk in and be like, "Yep, I'm gonna be, flagged," but that's not me. And they, but then you get to know those people, but if they're able,
That's bad luck for them.
there are some false positives with it, but
So that,
not many.
I mean, what
that does
happens?
bring up a question. So like someone, that
Go
was going to be my question. What happens? So someone gets flagged. What's the next step?
What if it's a parent?
When somebody gets flagged in most school districts that I've talked to, they immediately, in a discreet way, get an administrator to come and talk to the person and work through the system with them. In East Hampton, they actually have a procedure that they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, the system's not working right at the moment. I just need to go get an administrator to look at it." That's kind of their process that I spoke to them about. But yeah, so then the administrator would work through with the person to determine if it was really them on the list or not. And then
Will you be doing some staff training on questioning people who do not have their badges? I mean, that's a really important step, is to see something, say something. That.
Yep. And this only works as well as everybody is playing their part. Absolutely.
Right.
Yep. And it's really not so much, I think, there to screen a parent who might, for whatever reason, be on, the sex offender rolls, but it's really to identify people that shouldn't be in the building. We've been fortunate. We don't have people coming through that, we typically say, "Oh, you can't be in the building." But this is that piece that would allow us to definitively say that an individual has no reason to be in the building. So it carries beyond just looking at what registries they may be on.
So taking it to the next step, which, I could see occurring, if there's a split couple, husband and wife, and the husband has no rights to get the kids, and the wife calls and says, "Hey, if he comes, do not deny him admission to the school to get the kids." Is that something that we're going to do? Or is that something that's got to be in policy, or do we just, handle it on when it comes?
Yeah, we handle that all the time. I hate to say it, but that's not an uncommon occurrence. So that would be, we when we are confronted with that type of situation, and one of the spouses says, don't allow the other one, the first thing we do is say, "You got to give us the paperwork. We need to see, is it joint custody? Has the other individual lost custody?" So, but like, for example, we just received a restraining order on the spouse of somebody in school. So we have the picture of that individual in each of our offices, but a picture is only as good as a picture. It may not, the person may look different tomorrow. This would allow us to more definitively identify folks like that. Yeah. But if a husband or wife says, "Don't let my other pick him," that's something that we have to identify. Yeah. We wouldn't simply take that at face value.
Got it.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Anybody want to make a motion? Want me to make a motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the superintendent to work on the, what are we calling this?
It's the
Policy visit to the schools policy? Or what do we want to call this?
hold on a second. It is I'll give you the exact
Visitation policy?
It is a policy for visitors to the schools.
A policy for visitors?
To the schools.
Okay, so we authorize the superintendent to work with Shipman and Goodwin to modify the visitor to the schools policy and bring it up for first reading. Good? I get a second?
I'll
I
second.
second. So
Doesn't matter. It's
All
okay.
those
I'll
in
I'll
favor?
put you down, Steph.
Yes? What's your
I
vote?
hope I could read my writing later. Yes.
Yes, aye.
And I'm a yes as well. Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. So I'll talk to Shipman tomorrow, and we'll get that going and get that out to everyone. Great.
Sounds good. I
Okay.
think that was all
That-
in terms of the agenda. You have anything else, Scott?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, is there any public comment? Hearing none. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Folks.
Good
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Okay.
you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.